speaking of Grammys, I saw you were nominated 2016. That has to be just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it felt pretty good.
Yeah, dude, are you kidding me? That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I had written a song trying to get it in a movie, and it didn't get in the movie, but so I just recorded it myself. And then a couple years later, Leanne Womack, another Texas songwriter residing in Nashville and singer, one of the great singers in the world,
Absolutely.
recorded it and got a Grammy nomination. Sorry.
Hey, we keep the mistakes in the podcast too, by the way, just FYI. That's why I love what you do, because we do the same thing. Like, welcome to the Lone Star Play podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Join me and a famous guest every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We discuss their career, life, food, Texas, and everything in between. Let's get started. Guys, welcome to another great episode of the Lone Star Play podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. All right, let's get to it. First of all, thank you so much for the break. We needed it. We're back. So we took Wednesday and Friday off in case some of y'all didn't know there weren't new episodes, but I did put out that little teaser on Wednesday. So anyway, all right, so we're back, as I promised, with a great episode with Carll. Okay, he's a Grammy-nominated songwriter. And a singer, amazing music, been around, sky's a legend, right? So work with so many great people. He's just amazing. He's up in Nashville. We got him on Zoom as we always do. But he's a Texan, right? So as we always do, we had a great conversation. And we talked about him making a new album while he's stuck at home in the pandemic. So this pandemic album of sort, right? And what the difference is between that and recording in the studio. So I thought that was really interesting. And he's just a funny guy. We had a lot of laughs. And we just talked about, right, what's happening right now in the music industry and in his career and some of the things that, have led him to where he's at. We talked about his Grammy nomination, and that's a really funny story, actually, about him, his invitation to the Grammys and everything. It's a great story. So, yeah, stick around for that. And also, boom, get this shirt. If you're listening, well, just go to his website and you get this shirt he has. It's for a great cause, great charity. So he'll tell you more about it in the podcast. Listen to it, and then go online and get the shirt. And if you're watching on YouTube, obviously you can see me showing it to you. So here's the shirt. Bam, Alone Together. Hey, Carll. Love this shirt. It's awesome. So make sure you go and get one. And what else? That's it, I think, right? Let's just get to the episode, right? But before we do that, remember, check us out on social media. Please leave us a review. If you're on Apple Podcasts and listen to us, leave us a review. That would be awesome. We've been getting some great feedback about the show and just really enjoy it. So keep it coming. Keep telling us. Although there was one funny comment, I'll tell you, which I loved, which was someone saying that I blabbed too much on the Max Lucado episode, which I thought was hilarious. Which, look, I have been guilty of that, okay? So they weren't wrong, as I'm doing now, just blabbing away. So, all right. So my apologies to you for blabbing, and I'll stop. And if you need more information about us and the website, make sure to go to thelonestarplate.com. All right. So let's get to it. Let's get to the episode. As I promised, Carll. Enjoy. Well, good. Well, Hayes, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm really excited to talk to you. I've been listening to your music, man. It's just unbelievable. Holy smokes. Just when I think I can't be surprised by more music, because, we get actually a lot of musicians on the show here. It's just, my God, I'm so lucky to get to talk to people like you, man, who make just such amazing music. I just listened to Times Like These. I don't listen to a lot of the songs, but that one in particular, whew, that is a beauty.
Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, this is the room that I'm in right now. I'm going to segue for you just to promote my own stuff here. But I just made a record. I recorded that song I re-recorded that song. So I presume it's the one you're talking about is the
I
version.
heard the re-record. I heard the
Yeah.
re-record. Yeah.
So when the pandemic hit, I decided to try and turn it into something. So I called another one of my neighbors, Will Kimbrough, and asked him, how do you record yourself at home? And he gave me the simple version. And so I set up here in this very room and made a record, and then sent it over to Daryl, and he did the rest. So most everything on that record, with the exception of one or two, was done here in this room, which was fun for me, and learn a new skill and make some music during this weird time.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that is amazing. Did you? I'm sure the experience much different, right, from a studio. So what pros and cons would you say, top three maybe of each, like of recording at home in that room?
Yeah, the cons are that I have no idea what I'm doing. Uh, it was, and it was so there's definitely times where I would have given my foot for an engineer who could like simplify the process and help me kind of get a certain sound. But that was really about it. And there's something about in a typical recording situation, the energy in the room of the players that you're with. But for this record, there were a lot of pros that I think outweighed it. I just kind of treated it like I was what it was. It was just me late at night after everybody gone to bed, just playing around, mostly with songs that I had done in the past. I've been gigging for almost 20 years now, and some of these songs I had played inside and out 1,000 different times, and they take on a new meaning and a new life, and it was able to sort of, for me, capture that in the purest sense of what I do, which is I sit around with a guitar and try and figure out what moves me. And there wasn't the pressure of the clock and you're paying people and you got to get that take and all that stuff. It was just, I could do it as long or as short as I wanted until I got the sound I was going for. And there was, so I just think it has a very intimate feel on the record. Yeah. It may not have the bells and whistles. I'm not going to win any recording Grammys for technical stuff, but I liked the end result. It felt very comfortable, and then I was able to pass it to and my dog like hung out with me one night, and she shows up on the track because she decides to shake her collar and rattle her tags. And it just is what it is. So in the middle of a guitar solo, that's a dog, which is not on a typical record, but I embraced that. And
I love that.
And I took that stuff and sent it to Daryl Scott, and he put all his magic on it. My wife lives here with me most of the time when I'm not in trouble. So she came out and sang with me, and this is a back house. We call it the dog house because it's where I'm relegated to. And so she came out and sang with me, and then I got Ray Wiley Hubbard to fly in his vocal parts on a track.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so he was down in Wimberley and Austin.
Yeah,
and we had a song that we wrote together called "Drunken Poet's Dream," and we had both recorded it on our records, and so we finally got to do it together. So things like that were just really cool. Just using new muscles, learning some things, but the overall result, I just was really happy with. It just felt very relaxed and intimate, and was able to put a new take on these songs.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that, I know you said before, like, you could let yourself go on each take, right? Well, I get this, let's roll it again, right? There's no time pressure. But I have heard musicians state before that sometimes that pressure in the studio can be a benefit too, sometimes. So do you feel like maybe, but again, it takes away from the intimacy too, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely some benefit in almost all areas of a creative process, or probably in life in general, to having limitations and to having boundaries that keep you going a certain way. And in the studio, that can be budget and time. Unless you're Fleetwood Mac in the 70s or something, you got to get in and get out.
Yeah.
And because we weren't able to get together, the part of what makes that run smoothly is if you can do a pre-production, so that you know what you're doing and you have a plan when you go in. But Daryl and I weren't able to get together, and also I just, part of this was the relaxed nature of it, and the mistakes, and the just being able to play it until it felt right, and not being rushed. And it didn't matter if I came out Monday night or Friday night or 2 weeks later. I had time on my hands. We were all off the road and we were sitting here. And so I don't know. I think that was one of the things that helped me make it a more interesting record. And there's times where those limitations that people have can force you to make decisions and really hone in and dial it in, and that can be a benefit. But for this, I didn't need that. I knew what I wanted to do. Basically, like I said, I've been playing these songs for a long time, and I think I knew how I wanted to approach them, and it was just fun to be able to sit back here and try it out, try out different approaches, and when I landed on the one that I liked,
kept it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I can totally understand that. I mean, if I were to ever make a record, I wouldn't, but if that were to ever happen, that's how I would want to do something. It sounds to me like I'm a chef. I don't have a place anymore. I closed it last year, but that's still something that's in me, right? It's never going to go away. It sounds like just cooking without a recipe. And I love cooking like that, just by feel and just going with it. And that's actually my favorite way to cook. So it sounds a lot like that. And that sounds organic, right? And the mistakes are just genuine. It adds a lot of, I just love that about music, when it's genuine and there's a sincerity to it, right? A humility to it. It's endearing. That I'll gravitate to that more than bells and whistles in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's the mistakes are honest, and they're just part of the deal. And there's not something to live up to. It's more of an exploration. And with me, it was just me and my guitar, so there weren't those bells and whistles. Whatever there was added later, and it was just to follow your analogy. It's just me throwing ingredients together that I thought sounded good, or I knew I'd tried before. And
love that.
I was happy that it turned out.
That's awesome. So, okay, so now you've got this record, right? So how is live shows? What's the deal with that right now with yourself? Like how everybody's got a different sort of story. To be honest with you, everyone I talk to is a little bit different. So are you have stuff planned? Are you trying to get out and play these shows?
Man, I was in the middle of a tour. I started the year playing almost entirely solo, and my tour was called Alone Together with Hayes Carll, the Alone Together tour.
I love that. That's awesome.
And I was out in Seattle. I just started the third leg of it with a guy named Anders Osborne, lives down in New Orleans, and we played one show, and then we had to call it, and I flew home because of the pandemic, and got home, and obviously had no idea how long it was going to go. And everything just peeled off. All the shows disappeared. And so I started doing live streams every Tuesday. I have a live stream called Alone Together Tuesdays. And of course, the name of my record we were just talking about is called the Alone Together Sessions. So you sense a theme here, 2020 that year. And that has been just sort of, for me, the main thing. It's been invaluable for being able to, I've been touring for almost 20 years. It's how I make 90% of my income. And all of a sudden it just disappeared. And so being able to connect with the audience still and do something creatively was huge for me. And so every night I do this Tuesday show. Every week I do this Tuesday show. And that's sort of replaced touring for me. I can connect with the fans and hopefully make some new ones and feel a little less alone. It sounds hokey, but every week I say, I let people know how much it means to me because, we took this serious for a while. We didn't leave the house. And so to be able to have some kind of engagement, even if it's just reading comments or just looking at the number and saying, okay, I know this many people are out there watching, that makes me feel less alone. And so that's been the main thing, and that's been a blessing and a lot of fun. I did actually have a show 2 weeks ago here in Nashville at the City Winery. I had 2 shows actually, and they've got it worked out where they have a pretty socially distanced, safe space, and with a reduced crowd. So I went in and played for them, and it was weird.
Oh, really? It was weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was great. I was grateful for it.
Sure.
But I hadn't played a show in almost 5 months, and
Wow.
so to like have a microphone that worked and you could hear. I mean, this is what I'm doing every Tuesday is just sitting in front of my computer. And so like I finished the song and I joke about it. Like, for the first 4 years of my career and the last 5 months, nobody clapped when I finished a song. And in between, I had a pretty good like 15-year run where people would generally clap when I finished performing. But the last 5 months, first 4 years is because there was nobody in the audience, and or they weren't paying attention. And the last 5 months because there hasn't been an audience in front of me. And so to finish a song and have people clapping and to see live bodies out there after staring at a screen for 5 months, it was a bit of a trip. So it felt really cool and wonderful in a lot of ways, but it also was surreal and strange. So anyway,
because everyone's wearing masks, right?
Like 4 more shows on the books. I think all on Texas. Oh,
great!
Hope they hold up. Yeah, in October.
Nice.
And I had a whole bunch. I've probably had 70 gigs that have canceled.
Oh my gosh,
heartbreaking. I mean, not so much for me, but the venues I really worry about.
Sure.
And all the people that make their livelihoods out of working at those venues. But I'm really scared about the future of music venues and bars and restaurants in general. I mean, but the venues are going to be the last thing to come back. At least some of the restaurants can serve some food outside. But there's a lot of music venues that don't have an option. There's just no way to make money other than selling T-shirts. And a year and a half is a long time to go without being able to have any income and pay rent. So,
absolutely.
That's what concerns me the most.
It is. I mean, 100%. We talk about it a lot on the podcast. I'm from the restaurant industry, so it's brutal. Is the 5 months or 6 months? It's almost been, I guess, coming up on. Is that the longest you've been and not played in years? I mean, years, right? I mean, it has to be, right? It has to be like
my adult life. Yeah. I hadn't gone until about 2 years ago. I hadn't gone 2 weeks without playing a show.
Oh wow! Oh my god!
And a few years before that, I hadn't gone a week without. I mean, I used to do almost 300 shows a year.
Oh my god! Holy cow!
Yeah, it was year round. I mean, you hear about some people do like a touring cycle. Of they put out a record and then they go tour for 6 months and then they go home for a year or whatever. I never did that. I mean, the touring was how I paid the rent every month, and I couldn't, and I never was far enough ahead to where I could just sit it out for a couple months. So it's always been a part of how I paid the bills, and I've slowed down the last couple of years, but for a while, I mean, I was certainly averaging 200 plus dates a year, and then you throw in another 40 travel days or whatever. So this is by far probably by times 30 the longest stretch I've ever had off. And so again, it's there's some downsides to it, but it's also been nice to be able to have a life at home. That was one of the problems with what I did. Which I loved what I did, but I couldn't have a dog. I couldn't have a garden. I didn't have a lot of friends or the ability to cultivate those friendships and relationships in the place where I lived, whether it was Austin when I was there or Nashville. And now I'm home and able to connect with my wife and learn some new skills and not just be checking out of a hotel room day after day.
Absolutely, man. It's got to be absolutely. It's got to be so tough. I mean, right? The dream is when you were young, right? Oh, I can't wait to go on tour. I can't wait to be out playing, and then it becomes, oh shit, this is a lot. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, that was all I ever wanted to do. So it felt
Sure.
strange at a certain point to go, I'm not sure this is doing it for me anymore.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed playing, but the rest of it was, as I got into my 40s and you have a family and all of a sudden it's like, why am I missing a birthday to be in Omaha on a Tuesday night to play for 100 people? Like, it starts to make less sense.
I mean, I totally get it, man. You're literally talking about every chef's like life right there. Like that's why I got out of the industry last year. I closed my business last South by. That was it. My last event was South by, and it's same thing. It was just 7 days for me. It was 7 days a week, constantly running a business with
Yeah.
different facets and revenue streams. It's just constant work, and missing birthdays. I've had friends that missed literally the birth of their children because they had to do service on a Friday night at the restaurant. It's like, what? Right? I mean, it's crazy. It's I just couldn't take it anymore after close to 15 years. It was like same thing. It's just brutal. It becomes brutal. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Tell me about your restaurant. Your listeners probably know all about it, but
It was called Boca. It was a food truck specifically. I moved here in 2014 to Austin to open up a food truck. It was called Boca, and I then sort of expanded past that. There was different iterations. I did have a brick and mortar kitchen inside of a bar, so there was already a bar in place, and they had a
Which
kitchen.
bar?
They didn't Parlor and Yard. It's on West 6th.
yeah.
I was there for, I don't know, I was there for like 6 months doing that in the meantime. But mainly I was on Rainy Street for a long time at a Container Bar. And I just did catering like crazy. I would cater all kinds of events for South by was a really big deal for me. I would work with Showtime every year and help them with their big house that they had on Rainy at the Clive Bar. So, yeah, I actually used to do the Grammy party here in Austin. I used to cater the Grammy party every December and Christmas here in Austin. Yeah. For all the nominees from Texas and the Latin Grammy nominees as well. They throw this big party. Where's it at? Over there where they do the iHeart radio. I don't know if you know where that is, off of South Congress. I don't know.
South Congress. Yeah, I don't know.
The Gibson showroom, that specifically was where they would have the party. Yeah, at the Gibson showroom. So, yeah, that was great. There'd be a lot of musicians come in and, play all these great songs and see all these great people. And that was actually, a lot of fun. Speaking of Grammys, I saw you were nominated 2016. That has to be just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it felt pretty good.
Yeah, dude, are you kidding me? That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I had written a song trying to get it in a movie, and it didn't get in the movie, so I just recorded it myself. And then a couple years later, Leanne Womack, another Texas songwriter residing in Nashville and singer, one of the great singers in the world,
Absolutely.
recorded it and got a Grammy nomination. Sorry.
Hey, we keep the mistakes in the podcast too, by the way. Just FYI, that's why I love what you do, because we do the same thing. Like, look, just ask Radney. He'll tell you his dog. We had a dog in one part, and then my Roomba started in the middle of the podcast. I had to go and stop my Roomba. It was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, well, that's why I threw my hand up, because he's very likely to come in and just start cursing a blue streak. Tried to give it the eye signal, like, don't.
I love it.
Whatever you're going to say.
Yeah, not here. Yeah, I love it. That's hilarious. Yeah, so the song was called Chances Are, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Chances Are.
Chances Are.
Yeah, that's just amazing. Did you go to the actual Grammys there
I didn't.
in LA?
I thought about it. I got a suit and everything. I was thinking about doing it. And then the nomination was for best country song.
Yeah, best country song.
And
Yep.
I thought I hadn't watched the Grammys in a long time, but I thought maybe that would like qualify to be on the televised portion, and it turned out um, it's not. Like almost no country categories on the televised
Oh,
portion.
really?
Yeah, there's only like 8 categories I think that they have on the actual. It's more about the show than
I
giving out
see.
awards. They give out like 95% of the awards beforehand at this like they live stream it now, but in the past they used to just announce it. Um,
Oh,
and no, I didn't. I was living in New York at the time, and yeah, I just decided I would just watch it from my computer, and if I won, I'd be happy there, and a couple $1,000s more in my pocket.
Doug, that's such a boss move. That's a boss move. I'm sorry, but that's a boss move right there. Like, I'm sitting in my PJs, watch on my laptop. Hey, I'm nominated for a Grammy. That's
Right.
awesome. That's boss. That's way better than going, in my opinion, in some ways. Yeah, you'll go for another reason, another time.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Well, that's amazing. Did that help? I'm sure that must have helped you get some additional work and push forward some things.
Yeah, I don't know, how much work it adds, but what it does do, I found there's certain sort of cultural uh, uh, milestones or in a career that can do some good as far as just the overall perception
Sure.
of you and your work, and it's probably the same thing in like the restaurants or anything else. If you get a James Beard Award,
Yeah.
that means something, and people may never have heard of the restaurant, but all of a sudden you're on their radar
Yeah.
in a way that you weren't before, and so it's similar. Like I remember doing the Tonight Show, and it didn't mean a lot as far as like record sales. This was, I don't know, 10 years ago, but what it did mean was that my mom's friends, who had always, sort of been amused that her son was a musician.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we're like, oh, that's a thing. Like he was on TV. So it's more, I think, for the general public, things like Grammy nominations or TV appearances, they go a long way.
In their eyes, they get legitimized, right? Like, not for
Exactly.
you, it's legitimate, but in their eyes, oh, okay, it's real.
Yeah. But, that's one of the things I always loved about Austin, was when I moved there. I lived there twice, once for a really short-lived period of time that was not great for me in 2000. But then when I was just trying to kind of get going with my career, but I came back in 2006 or so, and I had the beginnings of a career in place, but nothing major.
Yeah.
And most anywhere else in the places I was living, if I told people what I did, I was a musician, a singer-songwriter, I got that look of like, what else do you do? And in Austin, I could say I'm a singer-songwriter, a musician, and that was enough.
Yeah.
That was such an important part of the culture, of the community, of the city, and it was a respected profession, in a way that it's not in a lot of parts of the country and even the state. And so that always made me feel like I didn't have to be sheepish about it. Like I said, I'm a songwriter. I create music and lyrics, and this is what I do. It's what I always dreamed of doing, and I actually make a living at it. And I don't need to apologize to you. So yeah,
That's exactly
just love
right.
be in a town where they're like, hell yeah, you are, and we love you for it, as opposed to you should go back to school just in case it doesn't work out.
Right. That's so crazy. Well, two-parter here. One, Austin obviously loves you. You won some, music awards in 2017. I saw it, which was awesome. So as well as, how do you think about Austin now? Do you think it's still the same, because that was 2006, that's quite a bit ago. Do you feel like it still has that same energy? That's still that same respect?
Yeah, I do. I mean, to be honest, I moved 3.5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Moved up to New York for a little while, and now I'm in Nashville. And but I'm still back a fair bit, or I
Yeah.
was until the pandemic. And my son lives there. I got a teenage son, 17-year-old, and still got a lot of friends and connections, and half my band still lives there. So I'm there, or was there a fair bit. But I haven't been like immersed in it like I obviously was when I lived there. I lived there for almost 12 years. So my take on Austin was it was starting to get a little tight for me. Obviously everybody's moving in, everything's getting built up. It was hard to find some of the places that had made Austin what it was. All the things that people bitch about with cities that get popular. I remember coming to Austin in 2000 and I'd meet people and they're like, oh, you should have been here in the 80s. And it's like, well, it's pretty great now. and, I met most people who live there now. If I said, well, you should have been here in 05, or, they said, this is great. So it's all perspective and relative to what you're used to. But for me, it just started to feel a little crowded, and the traffic was a pretty serious drag for me. I got to where I just didn't want to leave the house. Parts of the day.
But that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. I live right by 35. I mean, I'm off South Congress and Ben White, basically. Yeah. And 35 just right there. I mean, it's. I can hear 35 actually from my backyard, and it's a couple miles away, which is annoying.
Yeah. But I do think I don't think there is a more supportive musical community in the world.
Wow.
Having brought all the negative stuff up, Nashville's probably a close second. I've been blown away by living here, what it's like. But as far as the radio, there's so many radio stations that are not just clear channel type stuff. They're in there playing what they want to play. They're independent radio stations, which is incredible. And then whether it's your media or the clubs or the venues, or there's all the things that and most importantly the people that come out and pay money to listen to live music or put some money in the tip jar, or that's just a part of what they do, and part of we're talking about the cultural side of it. In some places you go ice fishing, and in Texas and in Austin in particular, you go out dancing or listening to music, and it's a really big part of life there, and that enables people at all levels to go out and have a shot playing music, which is a wonderful thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. No, I love it. I mean, when I moved here, I was like, oh, this is great. Even I go to the grocery store, there's the band playing. Right. I was like, this is great. Like, I love it. The sad thing is, we're talking about venues and, that sort of thing. Man, it has hit some live music venues here in Austin for sure. Some, it's been brutal. Seeing a lot of my musicians friends here just posting about all these different places that are closing, whether it be Threadgills or 1-to-1 Bar, or, just some different bars. I can't name them all, but just closing, just down. I mean, it's like the done for, right? And they've been open for decades, right? It's just absolutely brutal. Yeah,
they're institutions, and change happens, but it's
not like that, right? That's like it's just
this scale, I think it's just getting started. I mean, like I said, some people could hold out for 4 or 5 months, but there's not really an end in sight for a lot of these venues, and so I worry about them. Which, before I forget, I just related to that in restaurants. There's an organization I've been working with called Feed the Frontlines, and I've got T-shirts for sale on my website, and all the money goes to them. And what it does, it's really cool. It's two-part. The money that you give them, they give to restaurants or bars that have kitchens, music venues that have kitchens, restaurants, and that allows those places to keep their staff employed, even if there's not, or to keep their kitchen working. And then they take that food and they deliver it to first responders, the nurses and doctors in the COVID units, the people that really could use a nice meal and don't have the time. And they give it to them. So it works on two fronts. It keeps people able, or allows some businesses to stay open by giving them that little bit extra to at least employ their kitchen staff. And then it takes that food and gives it to people that could really use it, that are out there putting their lives on the line for us during this time. So it's a win-win, I think. And so if you, on my website, I just want to give that a plug. We've got men's and women's t-shirts. The t-shirt says "Alone Together," like all the other stuff I got going on right now. And 100% of any of the profit on that goes directly to Feed the Frontline.
That's awesome. Wow. 100% behind that. Like, absolutely, guys. Please definitely go check that out. Buy a shirt. I'm going to buy a shirt. I mean, that's done deal, dude. I'm in. That's without question. So, wow, that's amazing, man. Yeah, I love hearing things like that. That's great. That's definitely, you're supporting the business, the employees, and now the front line, who they absolutely are the ones that need good meals, right? These people that are working on the front line. You're right. They don't have the time to stop and say, well, let me go get my 1,500 calories I need for this meal, right? They're just scarfing down whatever they can probably in between, or not eating, which is even worse.
I know that the height of the pandemic, the burnout rate on nurses and doctors was just insane. And so I imagine that's really appreciated when you've been working that kind of shift, or you're, work with the fire department or a cop out there trying to, help people that, to have a really good meal prepared for you and brought to you and given to you. That seems like a great use of that.
100%, man. I mean, it's literally direct help, right? And a lot of times when there's just so many nonprofits out there, sometimes you don't know where the funds are going when you give it. So it's good to know that it's just direct help during this time. So no, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. God, that is so cool. What other sort of, people can buy all your CDs and stuff, right? On your website and everything, right? All your merch, all that sort of stuff, right? Everything's on there.
Yeah, everything's up there. The new record will be out Friday, but you can pre-order it right now. We've got some really cool vinyl and then some CDs.
The episode will come out when the record's already out by then. Oh. So we'll just say, right, it's available now. I mean, this is the future. Yeah, this is the future.
I should have asked about that. Yeah, so the record is available now.
Yeah. Showbiz, baby. I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so the record's on there.
All my stuff's available there. And so we got t-shirts and records and widgets and gadgets and hats. Whatever you need, I got you.
I love it, man. That is so cool. Speaking of time travel, I don't know why it just came in my mind, but I just saw that new Bill and Ted movie, Face the Music. Oh, so good. I love the Bill and Ted movies growing up. I always thought they were, just good fun, right? Nothing, not trying to win an Oscar or anything, but it's a great movie, man. Honestly, it might be the best of all of them, to be frank with you.
I just read a review of it, and it said it was a real solid film. I had a hard time envisioning how you take 50-year-old Tiana and Alex and I can't remember their
Alex Winter,
yeah. And make a movie. It was such a goofy premise to begin with. I was like, how does that play 25 years later, 30 years later, whatever it is? But yeah, apparently it's great.
I thought the same thing. In fact, I wasn't even looking forward to the movie coming out. I remember I was like, no, guys, don't. Because I was thinking the new Dumb and Dumber that came out, they just ruined a classic, to my opinion. And I was thinking oh, no, guys, don't do this. I love the Bill and Ted movies. Don't do that. But sure enough, and even the trailer didn't excite. I thought, oh, no, this is going to be a bomb. But you watch the movie, it's phenomenal, man. I was really blown away by it. There's just some characters that are not in the trailer that are in the movie that make the movie. That make they just I just thought it was really clever. And
what's the George Carlin part?
His daughter. They have his daughter come back, which is cool, and they give George Carlin a little cameo, like a hologram cameo sort of deal in there. which was cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was they did a good job of,
I wonder what the pay rate was for a hologram.
Who knows? Who knows? That is funny. That is hilarious. Yeah. Who knows? The George Carlin estate. I always thought it was funny that he was in that movie, right? It's like George Carlin.
I was perfect.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because I read a lot about that movie being made, and it was like they did not think it was going to be good. In fact, that everybody thought it was going to be this worst canned, just not a good movie. It actually took them like a couple years to make it. It took like a year for them to release it, blah, blah, blah. There's this whole cool backstory. So I can just imagine George Carlin making that movie, just like, what am I doing? This has got to be nuts. Just knowing his personality, But yeah, that's funny. Have you been watching movies and stuff too? Are you getting into any of that while you've been on quarantine?
Not really, no. I mean, we brought the TV down from the attic, and I feel like I watched a few things. That whole Jordan documentary, and but mostly it's been like trying to avoid stuff. I was like, we decided we're not going to watch the Lion or the Tiger King, and it just I just feel like, not to be highbrow about it, because I'm not. I mean, I watch a lot of crap and read a lot of crap, but I am here alone with my thoughts a lot, and I'm realizing, like, what I put into my brain and my body has a lot to do with how I feel and what I'm thinking about, where I'm at personally, physically, spiritually, and that's always a struggle, because I'm always drawn to the stuff that doesn't, that gives me a short-term high, but long-term is not good for me, and on all levels. So. But I haven't watched a ton of TV.
That's good, I think. Honestly, that's a good thing, I think.
Well, I've been busy as hell. It's blowing my mind. But I guess that's what happens. You lose your income, and you're like, okay, well, I better get to work. Coasting. I always bitch about how hard I was working, all this traveling and stuff. And it's true. The traveling was hard, but it also prevented me from like sitting down and doing consistent work, because I'm always moving. And now there's no excuse. And so I have like a normal schedule. I get up early in the morning and I just work all day, and it's kind of refreshing, but it's and I have, 20 plus years of being in the music business to make up for. So, I don't think anybody's crying me a pity party. I've had a pretty relaxed life. But now it's like I really had to get serious and get down to it to make sure that we pay the bills and that we can navigate this whole new world that we're living in for however long it lasts and beyond, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I mean, you made a whole record. Right? Like, Jesus. I think about the people who, when not that it's going to be a specific day and time where they're like, oh, pandemic's over. But, when the moment happens, there's going to be some people that come out and go, I didn't get anything done this whole time. You'd be like, what? You had like how many months you didn't get anything done? This is crazy. But I can also understand, I guess, the flip side to the mental state of people and depression. I've read some horrific stats about suicide and mental health during this time, and honestly the stats are quite disturbing, so I can relate to that too, with people not being able to handle a lot of the stress, right? Financial, whatever, all of it that comes
on every
with
level.
it.
Yeah, if you're if you're single, or if you're married and you hate your spouse and you don't realize it until
you're stuck with them. Yeah.
I mean, I feel very blessed in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's a tough thing. And then, and creatively too, I talked to a lot of songwriters and artists of all types. And, some people have channeled this into a lot of creative stuff. But most people I talk to are just like, they can't do anything with it. It's their mind is so occupied with the fear and anxiety of all those things. Is my family okay? How am I doing financially? Where am I at physically? Where am I at mentally? what's going on in politics, what's going on socially, what's going on with the pandemic. That my first thought was, oh, all this creative stuff is everybody's gonna be at home just writing millions of songs and painting paintings and writing plays and movies. And I'm sure there will be some stuff coming out of it like that, but for the most part, what I'm hearing and experiencing to some degree is it's kind of hard you got to get out of that distracted, afraid headspace, and that's not easy to do when when your life is literally kind of up in the air. And I guess our lives are always up in the air, but this has really flipped things up and down, upside down for a lot of people. And so my creative outlets have been more learning new stuff and figuring out new things, and less of the getting into the emotional or headspace of another person or of myself even to write a song. That's just been not easy for me to get into that place. So I'm just trying to stay busy with other things.
No, I get it. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you were able to, take some of that energy and do something with it. Yeah, I'm completely, I have friends that across the spectrum, right? I know people that are handling it well. In fact, I have people telling me I'm doing great, actually, like better than I've ever done, whatever new opportunity and they're just almost embarrassed or feel guilty to even say that because, right, other people are not. And other people I talk to, their business is struggling. Again, I got a lot of friends that are in the restaurant industry. So it's not easy for anybody in the restaurant. And there's nobody in the restaurant industry like, yeah, even if their sales are up, they're still dealing with a lot of, right, there's just other stuff that's happening. Maybe the sales are up, but the cost is up too, right? So it's not really evening out.
Unknowns and uncertainty.
Exactly.
There's a constant weight. So it may not be any one dramatic thing, but it's just there's a constant presence of unease and uncertainty, and that's what I find. It's like it's just hard to relax. Yeah, I'm at home. Maybe I don't have anything to do that day. Still can't relax because the whole world feels like it could just fall apart at any moment. And it's a strange thing. It's psychologically, it's a weird thing. I still can't get my head around it. I'm just trying to be aware of it and remind myself that okay, there's a reason why I'm feeling this anxiety or this weird energy level, and I need to not ignore it, but kind of try and take care of myself in whatever ways I can.
Well, to be honest with you, man, and I've told other, artists that are putting music out, you guys putting music out and doing your stuff helps a lot of people, man. It really does. Music gets people through a lot. It does. Music is just so helpful to so many people in so many ways. And whether artists know it or not all the time, I'm sure they know it to an extent. Music can save people's lives. I hate to say that, but it can save people's lives. It literally can. A song can change your attitude about a day, a this, a that you heard. So what you're doing it is important. It is powerful, and it does help people, man. It really does.
Well, thank you, and I agree with you in the general sense that putting stuff out into the world, you never know who it's going to hit or how it's going to land. It's going to affect them. And I know from receiving those things from people, what a huge difference a word can make, a lyric can make, a gesture can make. And again, that's been one of the things for me is getting to play these shows every week. It's incredible for me on a bunch of different levels, but one thing that's really cool is like I send postcards out to anybody that tips me. I send them a postcard if their address is on PayPal or whatever. And what I gotten back is being able to communicate with people, and they just leave me these messages, and they're letting me know how much these shows mean to them. And they may not be my biggest fans or whatever, but for them, it's a place to congregate and a way to like just take their mind off things for once a week. And I never viewed my stuff that way. I viewed individual songs as maybe being therapeutic. I viewed shows as being a good time or a certain kind of experience, but I never viewed it as being this respite from a crazy world, and that just makes me feel it's so humbling to have all these people just reach out and say, man, what you're doing means a lot, and at this time. And that's like, I knew that was out there in some vague way, but now I'm, communicating with people directly, and it's just overwhelming to have that many people kind of tell you that, and it makes me feel differently about what I do, and treat it. I think I respect it and value it more. Oh
wow.
Knowing what it means to people in a way that I didn't before.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Well, that's why people love you so much, man, because you take it seriously, right? You take it seriously what they're telling you, and it's why it happens, right? You can't play music without people listening to it, right? I mean,
when I could play shows, I used to say it every time. I said I would do this whether anybody was here or not, because I love to play music, but it's a whole lot more fun when people are there. 100%. And
it's a whole lot more fun when people are there.
Yeah.
I love it.
And now, there's not people physically in the room, but knowing that they're out there, means the world. Knowing there's people watching you, and I mean, I do feel that energy, and I do feel connected to people, even though I can't see them. It's like,
that's
just
awesome.
Simply knowing that they're receiving what I'm putting out makes me feel like there's some connection there, and in times like these, it really, you need that connection.
Let me ask you this. Do you think moving forward, okay, the shows start, you're touring again, you're sort of back in the game. Do you think you'll keep some of this Zoom, live show, or try to build it in? Maybe obviously not to the extent you do it now, but still keep it a part of what you do moving forward, even after all this.
Yeah, I do. It's been a really eye-opening thing for me. I just feel like, one, it's allowing me to work from home, and then two, it's creatively I can do things that I can't do on the road, and that I'm just in total control of my environment and what I put out there. And it's different. It's I don't know what's better or worse, but I know that I value it and appreciate it. And even if things went back to normal tomorrow, I would still want this to be a part of my career in some way, and part of my life. And so this, and then I do a thing called Patreon, which is a platform where people can support creators.
Everything.
There's probably chefs on there. There's songwriters, there's musicians, there's photographers, there's artists, there's journalists, writers, bloggers, and you just sort of, it's like a subscription service, and these people get exclusive content for whatever you're doing in exchange for their support. And I've been doing it for years before the pandemic happened, but when it hit, I really doubled down on it. And now that's another thing that I'm just like, that's a part of my life now, is that these people, these patrons, they keep me afloat, and in exchange, I treat them as a really important part of my life, because they are, and so it's just fun. It's made me feel more connected to my fans, and it's also given me a way to a place to channel my energies, so I can create, and there's an audience there for it, and I don't have to worry about a publicist or a radio promoter or a record company. I just can make stuff here, and I give it to them, and they seem to be grateful for it, and I get a blast. I have a blast doing it, and get a kick out of doing it, and it's just a really cool reciprocal relationship, and then I get to be a patron for other people too, other artists that I like. And so it's really cool, and not unlike how most artists were supported for most of time. The idea that you could just be a touring musician wasn't really a thing until this century, or last century. So at first I thought, this seems odd, and then I think about it historically, and I've got a lot of Medicis out there.
I love that. Well, it's direct support, right? Your money's going directly to that person, and that's it. Like
Yeah.
they get, you know what I mean? It's direct support.
I mean, you
It's
buy a
awesome.
record, and chances are, none of that money is going to the artist, or very
Yep.
little of it.
Yep.
But you go, and you go to a show, and it's going to the artist, and it helps. But and I'm not telling people don't buy records. It all helps. But there's a difference in spending $15 on a CD, and directly giving somebody $15 is
Correct.
you know.
It's the new way, man. It's definitely the new way. I just feel like it's the new way to artists to support themselves and for fans to support the artist that they love. I think they do it with podcasts like crazy, right? There's a lot of podcasts that have that, and I get it. It's great. I love the additional content, that can be provided, and you kind of feel like you're in the loop, in the secret of things, which is great, right? You get this exclusive stuff, which is awesome. What for your Patreon members, do you have anything cool that's coming up in the next couple months or something they can look forward to when they're listening to this interview?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a schedule. I haven't shared with them because I don't want them to hold me to it if I miss a day. But every month, I put out a new song. I record a new song, and the only people that get to hear it. And yesterday, on the first of every month, I released that, so they can expect that every month. And then I do twice a month. I do this thing called "What's Hayes Going On About," where I pick one of my songs, and sometimes I'll let them vote to which song they want to hear, and I'll just talk about it. I'll tell the story behind it, how it got written, what the lyrics mean, who I wrote it with, or anything interesting about it. And I just tend to get long-winded, as you can probably tell just from this interview, and so I can talk for a long time about my songs. And then I've got memorabilia Mondays, and I'll take some item from my career that I think has an interesting story that they might, if I went on TV and talked about it, maybe people wouldn't care, but the people that are interested in my career or followed it or want to know more about it, I think they find it pretty interesting. And so just stuff like that. And then I have a concert exclusively for the patrons once a month.
Oh wow!
So different things. So for like $1 a month, they can get all of that. And then there's just different tiers of things, all the way up to I've got I think it's like a $30,000 or a $15,000 a month level, which no one has done.
Holy cow!
Up there, and the whole idea is, you remember how Wu-Tang Clan made a record and only whatever Martin Skrilling or whatever.
Skrelly, yeah, that pill guy, right? I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
the idiot.
He bought it. That idiot bought
it. But the idea is like, who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there. If you contribute X amount, I'll make a record, and you're the only.
That's crazy. That's pretty cool. Damn, you might. Hey,
some people have a lot of money. There's things like, it's all relative again, but sometimes what is a lot of money for me is pocket change for,
Sure.
If you're a billionaire, it literally is.
I get it.
You don't think twice about it. So I thought I'd put it out there. Who knows? Maybe one of those people exists and is a fan.
Dude,
it's
that's
just looking for a way to give Hayes Carll a bunch of money.
Great. Hey, it's a great idea. If somebody goes for it, they go for it. If they don't, it's not like you lose $15,000. All right. It's not like you're not going to lose money, and it's not like you're not going to put out new music because of it. So, no, I love that. Well, now listening, okay, I got an idea for your fans here. Okay, fans, so you're listening. Right. Get together. Start emailing. Let's get this 15 G's together, and y'all can get an album. 50 people. I'll throw in however much money that is. $300, 50 people, $300, right? Is that right? Is that my math is I think
it would be 3,000 people at $5, 300. Yeah, you're right. 300 people at $50.
Yeah. Or like you said, 3,000 at 5. Hey, that would be too many. That'd be too many cooks in the kitchen there. 3,000 input of. I want this song. I want that song.
That 300 is the sweet spot when you're trying to pick song selection.
I love it. That's awesome. Man, that's such a great idea. It really is a great idea, man. Well, look, we have a few minutes. Hayes, why don't you just tell everyone just real quickly the website address, like your social media and too, like how people follow you, whatever your handles are and that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool. It's hayescarll.com, HAYESCARLL.com. And that extra L throws people. And then all the socials are just Hayes Carll. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Those I think that's it.
Are you TikToking yet? You're not TikToking yet?
No, I downloaded it. My ex-manager brought me a how-to video, and but no, I'm barely keeping up with. I just refreshed my MySpace the other day, so I'm not exactly cutting edge. I've seen the TikToks; they seem fun, but I really do slow. I'm turning into an old man. So I talked to my teenager. I was like, "Do you have TikTok?" He said, "No." I was like, "All right, I don't need it." It's my
well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's too many. There's too many social media. I don't know what's going on. I think we didn't grow up with it, right? So it's like, it's hard. Yeah, Instagram, Facebook's enough for me, to be honest. Even Twitter's just too much for me, to be honest. I'm on there, but I don't know how to tweet. I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know.
I always feel, I'm not alone in this, especially for anybody who's trying to promote themselves or needs to use those platforms to promote themselves. But it just feels some people are natural at it and some people make it look easy. I always struggle with feeling, I'm a somewhat private person who's also an extrovert. That weird mix of insecure and overly confident, and so there's days where I'm just like, oh, whatever comes to my mind is great, and I'll throw it out there, and blah, blah, blah. And then there's some days where it's like, I don't want the world to see me, and I certainly don't want to pretend that everything's great and feel the need to do that. And I also don't want to have a discussion with 50,000 people about it. So it's this weird pressure where it's like, you can put out. There's been times where I put stuff out and ended up changing my life, and I needed. So I think about what I'm putting out there. And
that's smart.
That's something I wish I just didn't have to do. I'd rather just be able to see a person, talk to a person, and that be the extent of that interaction. But it is what it is, and I think there's a few people that can navigate it successfully without being on there. But it's where we are as a society, and you got to use those tools to stay out there. At least I feel like I do most of the time.
I mean, they thought the TV was the devil, right? They thought photography was the devil. They thought it took your soul, right? So it's fine, right? It just comes with it. We're just being old men. I mean, that's how I know I am. I'm the get off my front porch stage of my life right now, and that's fine. I'm fine with it. Honestly, I love doing the podcast. I love the actual things, not the necessary, hey, check out my thing, if that makes sense, right? I like the thing to do. So I love doing the podcast, but I'm not very good at promoting it out. I'm glad there's a whole team behind this that handles all that because, this is what I love right here. So
yes, I totally feel you. And when you can just focus on that thing that you love and that you do, it's all great.
Yeah. 100%.
But, when you have to handle other parts of it, the less savory parts, that's when it gets a little icky and weird. I just feel out of my comfort zone, really. That's all it is. It's just, just putting yourself out there in a weird way. And it's not, here's a song I believe in and you can like it or not like it. It's, I'm going to try and be funny today. And okay, well, then if you fall flat, like I don't feel as good about that as if you don't like my song, because that's not, I'm not a comedian or I'm not a publicist. I'm a songwriter, and my job description has expanded with time. Now I'm an engineer and a recording artist and a publicist and a social media
Renaissance man.
Producer.
That's it. I love that. Hey, that's what we got out of it. Well, I love that, man. That's awesome. Well, look, Hayes, man, I've had just the most amazing time talking with you, man. It's just really been an absolute pleasure, brother. I really, really do mean that. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got, stuff going, but I definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and, just go over everything you're going through, man. I really, really appreciate it. So, just wish your family, you guys, the new record, it's out. Go buy it, download it, tell your friends. Get a T-shirt for this Feed the Lines. I'm going to get one. That's just the most phenomenal idea. Absolutely love that. Definitely something to get behind. And, hey, let's get people behind Patreon, baby.
There you go.
Carl. Let's do it. So, again, Hayes, thank you so much.
It's nice to talk to you and get to connect with you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. Again, my best to you guys. And, enjoy the rest of your day, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right. Adios.
All right, adios.
The Lone Star Plate podcast is produced by Texas Real Food. Go to texasrealfood.com and you can search your city for stores, butchers, restaurants, farmers markets, and more who are using fresh, artisanal, organic sources. It's a fun site that brings all natural options all together. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For more information, go to thelonestarplate.com. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Until next time.